Hey everyone, Matt's Mox here, and much like how I did a series about TT, I figured I should do a video about American 00. Well, maybe two videos about American 00. But, since it's not really well talked about and it's a very small group, there's not too many videos out there other than good old Leonard Williams' fantastic collection, but he does a lot more than just 00. I also do a lot of stuff. So, I'm going to show you my collection, which is sizable. Well, by sizable, it's actually tiny, but oh well. We're going to start with a car that's all the way in the back. So, most of my collection comes from three individuals. Part of it is the Mellenbach collection. Yeah, Mellenbach. I'm not good at pronouncing names. And that includes 3 cars. This is the Public Service Company of Ohio trolley, number 12, and it was built around 1946. It's not in the best of conditions. It's been around for quite a while. It even has a pole that goes up. All my trolleys get their power picked up from the overhead, and they have their entire base is just ground. So as you can see in there, this one's band driven. Well, all of them are. That was sort of the thing back then. But overall, it's a very good looking and well working car. This is actually the only one of the trolleys that runs, which is pretty good for what it's worth. We're actually going to zoom back a little bit, and let's move on to the next car. This next car is very special. It was also a Mellenbach. Again, there's 3 of them. And it was prominently featured in a Model Railroader magazine article about the guy, showing off his layout. Now, unfortunately, it's in very, very poor condition. But this is the Columbus, Delaware, and Marin number 500. We know it's 500 not only because of the design on the front, which unfortunately the glass and lettering's missing, but we can see on this side, it still says number 500 after all these years. This car was built in June of 1948 and is a heavy interurban car. It does not sit well on the rails and it has a lot of trouble. Both poles do go up. Of course, the back pole is being picky. Also powered by the overhead. And it used to have cars that could pull behind. As you can see, the truck assembly was scratch built, and it's falling apart. At some point, I'll do minor repairs, but for now, this car is bound to be a museum piece. It's going to be on display at the Electric City Trolley Museum, showcasing various scales modeling of trolleys. Along with that, we have the Chicago and Interurban Traction Co. This is another Mellenbach car. Unfortunately, the forward pole is missing, but we do at least have the rear pole, which is just a Bowser one. It has the wiring on top of the car. Wonderful front with the catcher, so that means this car could go both onto city streets and as an interurban car. It says Chicago on that side. And we could see on the other side, it's the same. Car number 94. Its drive is very similar. It's driven by a belt shaft. However, just like the Columbus and Marin car, it was an all solder body design, meaning I can't get it apart. Because of that, this car also will never run again, unfortunately. But it will be on display as a museum piece, and it'll also make good layout fodder. So that's 2 cars down that can never run. So, following up with that, let's go from a negative to a positive. We're going to start with my cars from Mr. Mole, also known as Commander Mole. He served with the U.S. Navy. Now, this is a center door car, which was used, well, by United Railways. It is based on a real car. Don't know where, but it was a trailer that'd be pulled along. So it has couplers on each end for being towed, and it's not in the best of shape. It was painted green once, and then it was sheathed over with copper sheeting to make the body. And as a trailer, it actually rolls very well. On the other side, you can see just two trucks, which I wonder if they're insulated, though they don't appear to be. It has a busted Bowser coupler on this side, and a weird die-cast coupler on that side, which works good with the Bowsers. Well, that's not saying a lot, because Bowser trolley couplers are pretty based. So, that's United Railways. And the final trolley is this unique piece. This is the Market Railways of San Francisco. One of their cars, I can't remember the number, but much like the United car, it has people on the inside, and it's for line, well, this is for line 2. It uses a red ball drive, which is currently disconnected from the poles, which the poles do go up. Those were scratch built by the guy. This one has a little string to hold it down, much like if it had the catcher, because it was designed, this car was mostly made to run one direction, but it could run in the opposite. It has a catcher on the front, and we have a conductor on the rear, because we don't have a motorman on this car, weirdly enough. On that side, you could kind of see inside there's people, but you could also see the motor, which we could actually lift the car up and off of its body. So that truck does nothing. All the ground is picked up from the motor truck. Again, this is a red ball drive. It's just belt driven. I don't know if this works. I have not fired up the motor, which, I mean, I really don't like these old motors. But you could see inside there is wiring all set up. So this car would pick up from the poles and from the ground being the motor itself and the chassis. And now that set came off another car, one of his Kansas City cars. But yeah, so that's that car. There's really not much more you could say about it. It's a San Francisco car, and I hate San Francisco. If you're from San Francisco, I'm sorry. Now we go to Ed's layout, or what's left of Ed's layout from Enola. And you have this lovely Scalecraft Reefer. This is a very nice car. The size of a minifig next to it. American 00, I should note, is 1/76 scale, the same as British, but it runs on a wider gauge, which, as you can see, I made wider gauge track out of this HO track. You can see where I lifted the rail and pulled it to the side, and then I used hot glue to fix it because this is cheap rail. It's not worth the money of trying to make it really nice. But this is a really nice reefer. Made by Scalecraft. It's a kit that is assembled and painted by the modeler. So that's why it looks really nice. And you can see the trucks. Trucks are pretty nice. And this one does not roll that well. The trucks kind of have a little bit of rot. But that's okay. We'll have it working eventually. They do make new bolsters for them. Now the final one, the other side doesn't show it too well, but this was a first generation Lionel American 00 caboose. They offered this for 2 years, both in correct Pennsylvania, because this is based on a N5, and they also offered it in New York Central. It was offered both in 2-rail and 3-rail. This is the 2-rail version. You can actually see underneath it says, by the Lionel Corporation, made in the U.S. of America. And on this car, unfortunately, the one dummy coupler was busted, so I replaced it with a modern KD, because they sit at the same height as the old couplers should. HO cars sit a lot lower down, but yeah, this is a very nice, interesting caboose. Of course, based on the Pennsylvania Railroad N5. It was only produced for 2 years. It almost came back in the 90s, but unfortunately, that was not the case. Lionel did make some American 00 in the 90s as those weird static models. They also produced TT as static models. Now, for working engines, both of them I have are actually converted engines. This is a AHM Plymouth MDT, which, although it's an HO engine technically, it was so large for being HO that it classified more like a OO engine. This started out as a Penn Central engine, but I've decided to redo it for the United States Navy. As you can see, I have couplers which are elevated a little bit, and I have a little more play for moving them around, just so that they work a little bit better than they used to. I pushed the wheels out, so now it runs at a wider gauge, but I kept the original number, 5008, and on the back, I made it for Philadelphia. This one does not have the nicest motor in the world, but all my engines in this scale do not. I'll eventually have a Scalecraft engine to show off, and I'm trying to get my friend to do some video for me down south. The final one is actually an engine I just recently converted. I don't have couplers yet. It was this really ugly looking chassis painted engine, and it just did not sit well with me. It was just disgusting. So I decided that it needed a spruce up. It got widened first. It runs really good. It's got a canned motor in this thing. And then I decided to paint it just yellow. It's just a really strong yellow. It needs another coat of yellow. It was painted white first as primer. But yeah, that's my last engine that I converted. And next video, I'll do some videos of them running. I'll also hopefully have the Scalecraft engine by Monday. So, that's it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and take care all. Bye now.